in 1999 in Sai Shruti in Kodaikanal. So that year, like every year, during Ishwarama Day, there's Narayan Seva, when there is prasadam distribution and food and clothing is distributed to all the devotees. So that year too, all the arrangements were made, and that morning, the students, all of us, as well as the Sevadal there in Sai Shruti Kodaikanal, that morning the entire place, that ground was filled with devotees, and all of us went around serving prasadam and giving Swamis, prasadam, the food and clothing, everything. Went on for about 2-3 hours. Swami inspected and supervised everything. Everything went off well. And then at the end of it, we all came back into the drawing room of Sai Shruti and sat at Swami's feet, thinking that Swami will be happy with whatever happened that morning. But then Swami was kind of not so, I would say, not so happy, and he was not satisfied. There was something that was disturbing him. So then immediately, the students as well as the teachers and even the Seva organizations officials, they prayed to Swami. Swami, have we left out something? Have we done any mistake? Please forgive us, Swami. And they asked, and Swami told, no, you have not done any mistake. Then we asked Swami. Then Swami is not looking happy. Swami is not happy. What is the reason? So then Swami mentioned, see, today, this morning, thousands of people came to Sai Shruti, and they all received Swami's prasadam, food and clothing and all that. Good. But then, what about those thousands of people who are so old, so weak, and cannot physically and financially afford to come to Sai Shruti? What about them? Who will look after them? How will they get prasadam? So then we were all dumbstruck, because this was a googly. We had just carried out the entire procedure of Narayan Seva meticulously, so well, procedurally everything was fine. But then Swami took it to a next level and asked, and we were stumped. We didn't know what to do. Then Swami got up and instructed that the jeep should be loaded with food packets and clothing and blankets. And then Swami then Swami called for the car and got into it. And
so he himself went.
He got into the car, and I was fortunate to accompany him that day, with him in the car. And for the next 1 or 2 hours, Swami went around each and every lane and by-lane and street of Kodaikanal, going over the road and pointing out to people, very, very poor people, very weak, handicapped, poor, forlorn people on the side, and pointing at them and instructing the Sevadals to give prasadam and blanket to them. He would point out every side of the street and look around, and this went on for about 1 or 2 hours. Swami went around and round, and he made sure that day that every deserving person in Kodaikanal, be it in whichever part of Kodaikanal, received Swami's prasadam that day. And after 1 or 2 hours of physically, instructing and looking at them and giving them the prasadam, he came back into Sai Shruti that day, and then he was so happy and satisfied. Then, now I'm happy. In fact, the people who could not come, they were the ones who deserved it much more, because they were helpless. They could not even get Swami's prasadam. They could not come to receive Swami's prasadam. So that is the standard of service that Swami wants. It's not just the routine, the procedural thing that we do, but the spirit of it, and to really, empathize and think about those people who actually need that kind of a seva.
See,
And
you
that
have
is
raised
true mother's
a
love.
very beautiful, perspective, because usually so much good work happens around the world, and including organization and outside the organization also. But we get trapped into what I call as a calendar activity.
True.
We are supposed to do twice a month, bhajans, or once in a month Narayan Seva, so-called Narayan Seva, and Narayan Seva is done either by cooking the food or packing the food and serving, whichever format you follow. It becomes tend to become a calendar activity that we must do, without realizing that Bhagwan is constantly assessing the need, and he expects us to go with that flow, to keep questioning whether it is really, reaching the end result. Is
True.
that giving you back the contentment and the satisfaction of serving because you have made an effort to go extra to find. So I think is a very beautiful example of Bhagwan which you have shared, to show even in the organization that we should not get trapped with so-called calendar tick mark that I have finished. Like you all did
True.
it in three, you did it as you said. Just for people who don't know, Sai Shruti is the name of Bhagwan's residence in Kodaikanal. So, and it has as all area, so people come there, and you did Narayan Seva, but he made you think that is it enough? You know,
Absolutely.
because we were all concerned to be around physical of Bhagwan, but never realized that when it is Narayan Seva, what does it mean? You got to go, and amazing to see. And I'm just reminded, sorry to interrupt, but long back, it seems Bhagwan himself in Parthi also, at night, especially during the end of December, it gets very cold in Parthi. So Swami used to fill his car with blankets
Oh,
and drive out around 10 o'clock at night himself
wow.
with car filled with blankets and go round any radius of Puttaparthi. It could go up to Dharmavaram or sometimes, to distributing blankets to every needy person. And then before that Suprabhatam 3 o'clock time, he would come back and sneak from backside so that devotees should not get disturbed by him. So he used to do it himself. And taking a thread from him, alumni also had started this process of blanket distributions.
Okay.
So I really wonder sometimes, like, our Lord has literally done everything on his own. He has lived with example. He has literally
Absolutely.
led with example. He has never only preached, and that is an
Absolutely.
amazing way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wonderful it
And
is.
like you mentioned, every time when we kind of get comfortable with that flow and the structure, he raises it to the different level. I
Different.
remember the Dashara 2000, year 2000, how apparently a newspaper report of a forlorn poor mother, who killed herself and her child because of utter poverty and hunger, that she could not feed the child. That one so-called so seemingly insignificant newspaper report, which might have escaped most of our attention, all our attention, that caught Swami's attention, and then that moved Swami so much that he started the Gram Seva activity, in the year Dashara 2000, when, all of us would go and serve, food, prasadam, and clothes to the villages nearby. So this one small trigger is enough, and then he actually races to the next level of Seva. Literally, I mean,
What a beautiful example of how to read a newspaper.
exactly,
See,
absolutely,
we are looking for news, and he finds there also an opportunity to serve.
serve.
It's
Very
such a
true.
life is full of. I remember somebody asking Swami, how can I serve? He said, are you blind? So it was a very contrasting answer. He was expecting some kind of instruction that do this, and Bhagwan says, are you blind? So he said, what? And he said, can't you see the opportunity? So, and
Mm,
the way you mentioned, yes, even reading newspaper, you can find an opportunity to serve.
absolutely.
It's fantastic. Thanks for you to bring that perspective of service for us. What service could mean, a life of service.